Hey there, Tisha here, and welcome to my hospital room and episode 1 of season 3 of the Hurdle2Hope Show. I haven't been around for a little bit leading up to the end of year. I intentionally took some time off. I was feeling a little bit run down and had a bit of a break from the podcast. And I was planning to do some more interviews again in 2026, but life took an unexpected turn. And so season 3, I'm sharing with you what's happened over the last month. So I hope you get a lot out of this series, which I've called Health Crisis in Real Time. And in this episode 1, I'll share the moment my body shut down. Okay, so I'm doing this very stripped back in terms of just having a chat, I guess, because I am sitting in my hospital room. But I wanted to share with you what a bit of a nightmare this last month has been. It hasn't had anything to do with MS or with cancer. Fortunately, both of those have been behaving really well. But as mentioned, I was feeling really run down leading up to Christmas. I had my PET scan, which was all clear. So once you get that PET scan and you're told you're in remission, I think that meant I thought the fatigue and, not feeling well didn't have anything to do with cancer, massive win. So I thought nothing to worry about. And I should say, sorry, apologies, my voice isn't sounding great, but as I share what's going on, you'll know there's reason for that. And also, as I've shared in previous episodes, when I was going through all the cancer stuff, I also dealt with muscle tension dysphonia, the tightening of the muscle above my voice box. And I think the trauma of everything I've been going through over the last month has triggered that a bit, but that's okay. I have a speech therapist that can help me with that when I get out of hospital. Okay, so I'll give you a brief breakdown. I don't want to go into all the medical of what happened because for me, it's more about the experience and what I learned from it and what it felt like. I had gut issues for a couple of weeks, sort of post-Christmas, and thought maybe I hadn't been as strict with my whole gluten-free thing. I wasn't sure what was going on. And it just kept getting worse until on a Saturday night about a month ago, I started passing blood. And when you're half asleep, you think, oh, is that blood? I wasn't sure. I wasn't too stressed about it. But that morning, never experienced anything like it. I was half asleep, trying to wake up, and I kept saying, Andrew, there's things in my head. I'm trying to get it out, and I just couldn't get my words out. Not brain fog, which I've had before with MS, but such a strange experience, which I was told by doctors later on that I was delirious with what was going on in my body. So then, I got up, I passed more blood and thought something's not right. Quickly had a shower. I remember after the shower, I just lay on the bed, thought I just want to curl up. I didn't have the energy to get up or do anything, but I thought that's not a good idea. So we thought, no, we need to go, we thought, into emergency in Maryborough, near where we live. But it's very small emergency, and Andrew's like, nope, let's go to Ballarat. And thank goodness we thought clearly in this moment of crisis, because going to Ballarat definitely saved me. And if you know me, I always play things down, but if we hadn't have gone to Ballarat, I know I wouldn't have made it. And we were really calm. We chose a good hospital to go to. Fortunately, we do have private healthcare. And thank goodness we did, because it's like as soon as I arrived in emergency, I relaxed and I thought, okay, I'm safe. And they took me straight through. And an incredible emergency doctor ran all these tests, and I was just going downhill really quickly. Fever, My temperature spiked, shivering. Then, Andrew kept saying, "You're so white." And my face was just ghostly white. Then he was looking at my hands and it's like, they're going yellow. So my arms started going yellow. My blood pressure dropped. And here I was thinking, oh, hopefully they think I'm bad enough to justify going to emergency. I was thinking, oh, hopefully I might get a night to get some hydration, because I've never felt so thirsty. I've never felt so dry in my mouth. Anyway, things went downhill pretty quickly. I just felt my body. It's strange to explain, but it's like the life force of your body is just being drained away. So that all of that was really scary. And what I've learned in going through some of these really dark times is I always ask, give me a sign that I'm in the right place. Give me a sign that everything's going to be okay. I did that as I lay down, and then the surgeon came in, a bowel surgeon, beautiful person. He was so lovely. And he was talking about, surgeries I'd had, and I told him I've gone through 2 single mastectomies. Told him the surgeon was an angel, that she was such a beautiful person. And he said he was a registrar under that surgeon, which was in a different town to where we were then. And I thought, thank you. I just thought, no, everything's going to be okay. We've been surrounded by people who are going to look after me. Then things ramped up. I didn't go into the normal ward. I was taken straight to the ICU when they got the results of all the scans and blood tests. And apparently I found out now my inflammation markers, which I've now learnt about, were off the charts. They're something like 200. They should be under 5. They didn't know what was causing it. I was in septic shock. So the next few days were a bit of a blur. I was in such a dark place. I was pushed to the brink. It was, I just felt my body wasn't responding to treatment. I had what they call a septic shower, which means they'd pump me with fluids, pump me with so many antibiotics. I had cannulas coming out of both arms. The concern was my blood pressure wouldn't stay above sort of 80 without them helping me along. One night it dropped to 66 over 50, and I just felt the world sort of closing in. So much happened. So much happened during that time. I won't go through all the medical stuff, but the scary thing was I just wasn't responding to anything. The markers did come down, which was good, but then they spiked back up, so they didn't know what was going on. But the ICU doctors were incredible. I was so blessed. The head ICU doctor came in and said, I know it's really scary when you're not a usual case, because I just wasn't responding like I should. And I said to him, no. I said, unusual is good. And I explained to him how I wasn't going down the normal path for MS. It's been inactive since 2012. I haven't had a relapse. And then I said, with cancer, I said, stage 4 cancer to start with. I said, I'm in remission, and I'm only in remission through doing lots I do, but also through hormone blockers. So I explained all that to him, and I said, you guys get to it. I said, you work out what to do. I said, I'll keep myself right here, emotionally and mentally, and I'll get through this. But you don't need to rush it, because I knew I was in for a long haul, and it was. I was in ICU for 8 days, which is a long time, but they got me to a point where I could leave ICU. My blood pressure was stable, which was good. They'd given me all different treatments. And then I had to leave ICU with a gut, which was sort of getting right, to then go into the ward and have preparation for a colonoscopy. So that was interesting. Had to clear out the bowel again. The colonoscopy Was good, showed massive ulceration right through my bowel and colon, and they still weren't sure exactly what had caused that. And then, yeah, I've been in the ward for the next sort of few weeks, trying different treatments, trying to work out what's going on. It could be Crohn's disease, they're not sure, because it could also be a range of things. And I said, don't care. Don't care about another label. It doesn't matter. Let's just treat the symptoms. And then when I get out of here, I'll be treating the causes. And I can do a lot with diet more, be a bit more strict, I guess, and not many lifestyle changes in terms of living at Daisy Hill does give me a lot of peace and space for healing. But yeah, it's, I guess, the healing for this will be around the shock of experiencing your body shutting down. And that's something I've never had to go through. You know, a friend said, you've gone through the trilogy. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she said, well, chronic illness with MS. And it's true. I've lived with MS for well over half my life. Then she said, well, then the whole stage 4 cancer thing. True. You know, that was such a shock to the system. And you know, it's a big thing to carry, knowing that you've been diagnosed with what's considered an incurable disease. But I've changed the narrative to that. And now I've physically felt my body shut down. And that would definitely take quite a lot to process. And the shock of it, especially sort of week 2 of being in here, you know, I was crying a lot and I just let those tears be, which I probably haven't done well in the past. But I thought, no, lots of the emotions from dealing with cancer as well are coming out, and I think that's healthy. And yeah, this is just going to be a long, ongoing process. So I sit here, not sure when I'm leaving the hospital, still in quite a bit of pain. Still, I won't show you my stomach, big stomach. I put on 12 kilos in a week with all the fluids they pumped into my body. That's been difficult in terms of most of that went onto my legs, so very difficult in walking with MS, but we've got rid of nearly 9 kilos of that, so feeling better with that. And then very open now in terms of what I do, whether it's Crohn's or it doesn't really matter. You know, I'm on some treatment that they use for Crohn's. We'll see whether that works. But then I'll get to it and do what I do in terms of calling in all of my supports, whether it's having Reiki sessions, my physio sessions, which I need, lymph drainage, which I need, speech therapy, which I need, massage, all of those things to get my body back. Been very fortunate. My doctor here has been consulting with my neurologist, who's sort of guided in terms of what medications are good or not so good for MS. He's also been in contact with my oncologist. I guess my greatest fear was all the ulceration was in relation to metastasized cancer. Lodging itself in my colon, but fortunately that wasn't the case, so that was a big relief. But you know, I'll be in contact with my oncologist as well when I'm out. So I've got an incredible team, and yeah, I'm very grateful to be alive. And I think for me, as I look back on all this, it's almost good. I often play down, you know, how serious some of the things I go through are. And I think it's been almost good that I did have such a significant time in the ICU, because no denying, you know, it's been, yeah, not only emotionally really difficult, mentally very difficult to get through, but physically, it's been a lot on my body. So I know now I have to take care of myself and, yeah, just get into the zone of healing and not putting a timeline on it, and hopefully getting back to my normal, whatever my normal is. So that's just a bit of an outline of what happened. And I share this mainly because we don't know. we don't know when life is going to change. When I was having Christmas this year, there's no way I would have thought that I'd end up in hospital. And if I did, I'd be thinking, oh, probably MS or cancer. I wouldn't have thought some bowel problem. But life changes like that. And we don't need to live in fear of that. And hopefully I can share some of the things that helped me get through not only this massive crisis, but I guess what I've used in the past as well, which have helped me to get through this, because we can get through it. You know, the resilience we have in those darkest moments, if we have been working on ourselves, then they come to the forefront. And I don't know, in that moment, and when I was reflecting, I thought, how did I get through it? Because it was so dark. But, you know, when we work on ourselves, the lightness will always guide us through. And I really believe that. So I guess that's my motivation as well. You know, let's learn from all of this. Let's find out what you can take from this as well to help support others who are going through things and will help you somehow in your life as well. So I'm going to take a breath because I'm a little bit tired. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this series. Hop on socials at Hurdle2Hope on Instagram. I'm sharing different things, what I'm going through, and some different reels. Also Facebook at Hurdle2Hope. And yeah, let's go on this journey together. Chat soon. Actually, one more thing before I go. Check out tisharose.com. Who would have thought, a website under my name? But before all this happened, I actually had someone approach me who'd read my book a few times over the last 10 years and asked whether I was doing coaching. Coaching was something I was really wanting to do. I've had a course for women mainly living with chronic illness, but I wasn't sure what to do with that. But as I said, during this podcast, I'm all about signs, and this was absolutely a sign for me that that was something I can offer. And this experience has confirmed, I guess, that I do have a lot to offer in this space. So yeah, if you're living with a chronic illness, if you know someone who is, please check out tisharose.com, and there's all the information there. Thank you for joining me on the Hurdle2Hope Show. Please help me spread the word. Share this episode or others to friends, family members who you think will benefit from these conversations. Don't forget, we're also on YouTube now at Hurdle2Hope is the channel. And if you need support, resources, or a speaker for an event, please visit Hurdle2Hope.com. Don't forget Hurdle2Hope with the number 2. Enjoy your week, and if you're going through a difficult time, please remember, even in the darkest moments, hope is always there.